Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Getting close to Christmas time if you celebrate Christmas. So I thought a good book to read to you today would be Magic Treehouse, Christmas in Camelot. So these are the Merlin missions. This is book 1 in the Merlin missions. So all you have to do is sit back and relax and just listen to the story. All right. Bring this a little bit closer so you can hear. All right, so Christmas in Camelot, Chapter 1, A Royal Invitation. This is a little prologue here. Our brother, had you known our Camelot, built by old kings, age after age, so old, the king himself had fears that it would fall, so strange and rich and dim. Alfred Lord Tennyson, Idylls of the King. Okay, so actually this is the prologue before Chapter 1. So the prologue. Once upon a time in Prologue, Pennsylvania, a mysterious treehouse appeared in the woods. A boy named Jack and his sister Annie climbed into the treehouse. They found that it was filled with books. Jack and Annie soon discovered that the treehouse was magic. It could take them to places they read about in books. All they had to do was point to a picture and wish to go there. And then they discovered that during their adventures, no time at all had passed in Frog Creek when they went back home. Jack and Annie eventually learned that the treehouse belonged to Morgan Le Fay, an enchantress from Camelot, the long-ago kingdom of King Arthur. On one of their journeys, Jack and Annie visited Morgan's library, which is in Camelot, and it brought hope and courage to King Arthur. Now it is winter. Jack and Annie have not seen Morgan or the Magic Treehouse for many, many months. All right, so here we go. Chapter 1, Royal Invitation. Sunlight had faded from the late afternoon sky. Puffy snow clouds were moving in. Let's hurry, I'm cold, said Jack. He and Annie were walking home from school. Their Christmas vacation was just beginning. Coo, coo. Wait, said Annie, look. She pointed to a white bird sitting on a bare tree branch at the edge of the woods. The bird was staring straight at them. It's a dove, said Jack. Oh, it's a messenger, said Annie, from Morgan. No, said Jack, afraid to get his hopes up. They hadn't seen Morgan Le Fay in a really long time, and he really missed her. Yes, said Annie, she has a mission for us. I can just feel it. In the hush of the cold twilight, the dove spread its wings and flew into the Frog Creek woods. Come on, said Annie. The treehouse is back. You're just hoping, said Jack. I'm knowing, said Annie. She ran into the woods, following the white dove. Oh, brother, said Jack. But he took off after Annie just like normal. Even in the growing darkness, they easily found their way. They zigzagged between the bare trees and ran over the frozen ground until they came to the tallest oak in the woods. See, said Annie, see? Yeah, whispered Jack. There it was, the magic treehouse. Morgan, shouted Annie, Morgan! Jack held his breath, waiting to see the enchantress at the treehouse window. But Morgan didn't appear. Annie grabbed the rope ladder and she started climbing up. Jack followed. When they climbed inside the treehouse, Jack saw something lying on the floor. It was a scroll. It was rolled up and tied with a red velvet ribbon. Jack picked up the scroll and unrolled it. The thick yellow paper shimmered with large gold writing. Wow, Jack said. Morgan sent us a really fancy note. It's an invitation, said Jack. Listen to this. Here's a picture of the invitation. He said, listen to this. Dear Jack and Annie, please accept this royal invitation to spend Christmas in the kingdom of Camelot. Christmas in Camelot, said Annie. I don't believe it. Cool, whispered Jack. He pictured a beautiful glowing castle lit with candles and filled with knights and ladies feasting and singing. We're going to celebrate Christmas with Morgan and King Arthur, said Annie, and Queen Guinevere. Yeah, said Jack, and the Knights of the Round Table, like Sir Lancelot. Let's go, said Annie. Where's the book? She and Jack, they looked all around the treehouse for a book about Camelot. The only book they saw was the Pennsylvania book that always brought them back home. That's strange, said Jack. Morgan didn't send a book about Camelot with a royal invitation. How does she expect us to get there? I don't know, said Annie. Maybe she forgot. Jack picked up the invitation. He read it again. He turned it over, hoping to find more information. The back of the scroll was blank, and then he handed the invitation to Annie. She must have forgotten, he said. You're right. Darn, said Annie, staring at the gold writing. I really wish we could go to Camelot. Uh-oh. Then the tree branches rustled. The wind began to blow. Whoosh, whoosh. What's happening, said Jack. I don't know, said Annie. Wait a minute, said Jack. You were holding the invitation and you made a wish. The wind blew harder and harder. That must have made the magic work, cried Annie. Yay, yay. Jack felt a surge of joy. We're going to Camelot, he said. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Ooh. Chapter 2. This is Camelot? Jack shivered. Whew. He could see his breath in the dim light. Annie was staring out the window. This is Camelot, she said. Jack looked out with her. The treehouse had landed in a grove of tall, bare trees. A huge, dark castle loomed against the gray sky. No light shone from any of its windows. No banners waved from its turrets. Wind whistled through its tall towers, sounding very sad and lonely. It looks deserted, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. I hope we came to the right place. Jack pulled his notebook and pencil out of his pack. He wanted to write a description of the dark castle. Hey, I see someone, said Annie. Jack looked out the window again. A woman was crossing the castle drawbridge. She wore a long cloak and carried a lantern. Her white hair blew in the wind. Let's see what happens next. Morgan, said Annie and Jack together. They laughed with relief. Morgan hurried over the frost-covered ground toward the grove of trees. Annie, Jack, is that you? She called. Why, of course, said Annie. Who do you think it is? She started down from the treehouse. Jack threw his notebook into his backpack. He followed Annie down the rope ladder. When they reached the icy ground, they ran to Morgan and both threw their arms around her. I was looking out a window in the castle and saw a bright flash in the orchard, said Morgan. What are you doing here? You didn't send the treehouse for us? Asked Jack. With a royal invitation to spend Christmas in Camelot, said Annie. Oh, no, said Morgan. She sounded very alarmed. But the invitation was signed with an M, said Jack. I don't understand, said Morgan. We are not celebrating Christmas in Camelot this year. You aren't, said Jack. Why not, said Annie. A look of sadness crossed Morgan's face. Do you remember when you visited my library and gave King Arthur the hope and courage to challenge his enemy, she asked. Sure, said Jack. Well, Arthur's enemy was a man named Mordred, said Morgan. After you left, Arthur defeated him, but not before Mordred's dark wizard cast a spell over the whole kingdom. The spell robbed Camelot of all its joy. What? All its joy? Whispered Annie. Yes, said Morgan. For months, Camelot has been without music, without celebration, and without laughter. Oh, no, said Annie. What can we do to help, said Jack. Morgan smiled sadly. This time, I don't think you can do anything, she said. But perhaps it will lift Arthur's spirits to see you both again. Come, let's go inside the castle. Morgan held up her lantern and started to walk towards the drawbridge. Jack and Annie hurried after her. As they walked through the outer courtyard, the frozen grass crackled under their sneakers. They followed Morgan over the bridge and through a tall gate. There was no signs of life in the castle's inner courtyard. Where is everyone? Annie whispered to Jack. I don't know, he whispered back. Jack really wished they had a book about Camelot. It might help them understand what was going on. Morgan led them to a huge archway with 2 wooden doors. She stopped and looked at them. I'm afraid no book would help you tonight, Jack, she said. Jack was startled that Morgan had read his thoughts. Why not? Asked Annie. On all your other journeys, you visited real places and times in history, said Morgan. Camelot is different. How? Said Jack. The story of Camelot is a legend, said Morgan. A legend is a story that begins in truth, but then imagination takes over. Different people in different times tell the story. They use their imagination to add new parts. That is how a legend is kept alive. Tonight we'll add our part, said Annie. Yes, said Morgan, and please, I beg you, she said in the lantern light. She looked very serious. Do not let the story of Camelot end forever. Keep our kingdom alive. Of course we will, said Annie, of course. Good, said Morgan. Come then, let us go into the great hall and visit the king. Morgan lifted an iron latch and pushed open the heavy doors. Jack and Annie followed her inside to the dark castle. Chapter 3, The Knights of the Round Table. So that was a picture from Chapter 2. She's taking them into the doors. All right, Chapter 3. Here we go. The Knights of the Round Table. A pair of torches dimly lit the drafty entrance hall of the castle. Shadows danced on the worn tapestry. Wait here, said Morgan. I will tell the king of your arrival. She headed through the huge stone archway that led to the great hall. Let's begin, Annie said to Jack. Jack pushed his glasses into place, and then he and Annie walked quietly over to the big arch, and they peered in. The ceiling of the great hall towered above a stone floor. At the far end of the room, King Arthur and his knights were sitting at a huge round table. They all wore brown tunics. They had shaggy hair and beards, and their names were carved in gold letters on the backs of their chairs. The Knights of the Round Table, whispered Jack, and here it is. The Knights of the Round Table, wow. Morgan was talking to King Arthur. Besides the king sat a woman in a plain gray robe. She had pale, pale skin and brown curly hair. Queen Guinevere, whispered Annie. Morgan left the king, and Jack and Annie moved quickly back into the shadows. A moment later, Morgan appeared. I told the king that 2 special friends of his have just arrived, she said. Come with me. As they walked with Morgan through the great hall, Jack shivered again. Brrr. The huge room was drafty and damp. There was no fire in the fireplace. The stone floor was so cold that Jack could feel the chills coming right through his sneakers. They stopped near the round table. King Arthur stared at them with his piercing gray eyes. Greetings from Frog Creek, Annie said to the king and queen. Annie bowed, and Jack bowed too. The queen smiled, but King Arthur did not. Your Majesty, you remember Jack and Annie, said Morgan. You met them last summer in my library. Oh, indeed, indeed, I shall never forget them, King Arthur said. Greetings, Annie. Greetings, Jack. How do you come to be in Camelot on this bleak night? We came in the magic treehouse, said Annie. A shadow crossed the king's face. He looked at Morgan. No, your Majesty, I did not use my magic to bring them here, she said. Perhaps a bit of magic still lingers in the treehouse, and it traveled on its own. What's going on, Jack wondered. Why does King Arthur seem unhappy about the magic treehouse, he thought. King Arthur looked back at Jack, and then he looked at Annie. However you have come, you are welcome in my kingdom, he said. He turned to the queen. Guinevere, these are 2 friends who once gave me hope and courage in a time of need. Queen Guinevere smiled again, but there was a look of sadness in her eyes. I've heard much about you, she said. I've heard about you, too, said Annie. Allow me to present my knights, said King Arthur. Sir Bors, Sir Kay, and Sir Tristram. As the king named each knight, Jack and Annie nodded shyly. The knights nodded at them in return. Jack waited to hear the name Sir Lancelot, the most famous of Camelot's knights, but the king never said it. And finally, Sir Bedivere and Sir Gawain, King Arthur finally said. The king then turned to 3 empty chairs at the table, and there once sat 3 that are lost to us now, he said. Lost? How? Thought Jack. You may sit at their places and join our dinner, King Arthur said. Thank you, said Annie. Following Morgan around the table, Jack read the names on the backs of the 3 empty chairs. 1 was Sir Lancelot, 2 were Sir Galahad, and 3 was Sir Percival. Jack took off his backpack and sat down in Sir Lancelot's place. As he sat tall and straight in the heavy wooden chair, Jack looked at the king and his knights. They were gnawing meat off bones and slurping wine from big, heavy goblets. They ate without manners or delight. Jack really wanted to take notes. He reached into his backpack under the table and pulled out his notebook and his pencil to take notes with. But before he could write a word, a serving boy brought more food. Jack quickly put his things away. The boy sat a greasy slab of beef on a soggy piece of bread in front of him. The food looked terrible. "Not much of a Christmas feast, huh?" Annie said in a low voice. Jack shook his head, no. Annie leaned close to Morgan and whispered so King Arthur wouldn't hear. "What happened to the lost 3 knights?" she asked. "After Mordred's dark wizard cast a spell, the king sought help from the magicians of Camelot," Morgan said quietly. "They told him he must send his knights on a quest to the other world to recapture our kingdom's joy." "What's the other world?" asked Jack. "It's an ancient, enchanted land beyond the edge of the earth," said Morgan. "The place where all magic first began." "Wow," whispered Annie. "The king chose his 3 bravest knights to journey there," said Morgan. "When they didn't come back, Arthur turned against his magicians. He blamed magic for all of Camelot's woes. Hence, he has banned magic of any kind from the kingdom forever." But you're a magician," whispered Annie. "Did the king turn against you?" "Arthur and I have a long friendship," said Morgan. "He has allowed me to stay in the castle as long as I promise not to practice the art of magic ever again." A feeling of dread crept over Jack. "So does that mean the magic treehouse is—" Morgan nodded. "Yes, banished from Camelot," she said. "I'm afraid this will be your last journey, and the last time we see each other." Her eyes filled with tears. She looked away. "What? The last time we see each other? Forever?" said Annie. "No." Before Morgan could answer, the wooden door swung open with a bang. Bam! A wind whoosh, rushed through the great hall. The torches and candles flamed brighter, making the shadows leap wildly on the walls. The sound of hoofbeats filled the room. Ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. A knight on a huge horse rode through the huge doorway. The knight was dressed in all red, from his shining helmet to the long cloak on his back. His horse was dressed in all green, from the armor that covered his head to the cloth that hung from his saddle. "Oh, wow," breathed Annie. "A Christmas night." Chapter 4. Who will go? "I've come to see Arthur the King," the Christmas knight said. His deep voice echoed from inside the helmet. His red armor gleamed in the firelight. King Arthur stood up. He stared fiercely at the knight, but he spoke in a calm, steady voice. "I am the Arthur the King," he said. "Who are you?" The knight did not answer Arthur's question. "So, you are the legendary King Arthur of Camelot," he said in a mocking voice. "And these must be the famous knights of the Round Table." "Yes," said King Arthur, "and again I ask, who are you?" The Christmas knight still did not answer Arthur's question. "The spell of the dark wizard has robbed Camelot of its joy," said the Christmas knight. "Has it robbed you and your men of your courage as well?" "You dare to question our courage," King Arthur said in a low, angry voice. This is the Christmas knight coming in to the great ballroom. "Camelot is dying," the Christmas knight boomed. "Why has no one journeyed to the other world to recapture its joy?" "I have sent my best knights on such a quest," said King Arthur. "They never returned." "Then send more," thundered the Christmas knight. "No," shouted King Arthur, pounding his fists on the table. "Never again will I feel good about sending men to the magic and monsters of the other world." Jack felt a chill of fear run down his body. "What monsters?" "Then you choose your fate," said the Christmas knight. "If you will send no one else to the other world, then your kingdom has gained, and all that your kingdom has gained through time, all beauty, music, wonder, and light, all that Camelot has ever been or could ever be, will be lost and forgotten forever." "No," shouted Annie. "Shh," said Jack. The Christmas knight turned to the knights at the table. "Who will go?" he boomed. "We will," shouted Annie. "We will?" said Jack. "Yes, we'll go on the quest," Annie yelled. "We'll go." She jumped up. No, cried Morgan Le Fay. Never, said King Arthur. Annie, said Jack. He leaped up from his chair and he grabbed her. Yes, thundered the Christmas knight. He pointed his red-gloved hand at Annie and Jack. The youngest of all, these two, they will go. You are mocking us, King Arthur said again. They will go, boomed the knight. His words echoed through the hall. Oh, no, thought Jack. Yes, said Annie. She pulled Jack toward the Christmas knight. King Arthur turned to his men. Stop them right now. Several knights started to rush towards Jack and Annie. The Christmas knight raised his gloved hand in the air. In an instant, the room fell deathly quiet. Everyone around the table was still as a statue. King Arthur looked like the statue of a furious king. Queen Guinevere looked like the statue of a worried queen. The knights of the Round Table looked like statues of fierce knights. And Morgan Le Fay looked like the statue of a caring friend. Her mouth was open, as if she were calling out to Jack and Annie. But no sound came from her lips. No sound at all. All right, that's chapter 1 through 4. We will read some more later for our Christmas story this Christmas season. And today is the first day of winter here in the United States, December 21st. So happy first day of winter. My name's Kelly. Click subscribe if you'd like to listen to more stories. And I can't wait to read to you more. All right, see you soon. Bye.